Heroes are an inspiring group of people. Every one of them, from the larger-than-life comic book heroes you see on the big silver screen to the everyday heroes that let us live the privileged lives we do. Every hero has a story to tell. The doctor saving lives at your local hospital, the war veteran down the street who risked his lives for our freedom, the police officers and firefighters who risk their safety to ensure ours. Every hero is special and every story worth telling, but there is one class of heroes that I think is often ignored. The entrepreneur, the creator, the producer, the ones who look at the problems in this world and think to themselves, you know what, I can fix that, I can help people, and I can make a difference. Then they go out and do exactly that by creating a new product or introducing a new service. Some go on to change the world, others make a world of difference to their customers. Welcome to The Hero Show. Join us as we pull back the masks of the world's finest heropreneurs and learn the secrets to their powers, their success, and their influence, so you can use those secrets to attract more sales, make more money, and experience more freedom in your business. I'm your host, Richard Matthews, and we are on in 3, 2, 1. Oh, hello, and welcome to The Hero Show. I am live on the line with Tesa Colvin. Tesa, are you there?
I am here.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. I just love that we have the ability to hop on and do calls like this nowadays when we're halfway across the country. I think it's super awesome. So
I love that. Yes.
yeah. So let me introduce you real quick. I've got your bio that you sent over. Looks pretty. You got all sorts of cool stuff on here. So you're an award-winning publishing, coaching consultant, a TV show host. You're a wife, mother of 4. You said, including 2 fur babies. I got a couple of fur babies myself. I got a poodle and a kitty cat. Bestselling author. You've been seen in the Huffington Posts, Thrive Global Medium, and SBA's Score, the Birmingham Chapter. So you got all sorts of stuff that's going on there. Really look forward to sort of hearing your story on some of these things. So what I want to start off with is what you're known for today, right? So we talk about in the Hero Show basically what people come to you for now, why they look for Tesa, and why they call you up. So tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
I am known for one thing and one thing only, and that is hashtag get that book done.
Oh, nice.
That is my jam. I am here to kill the myths about book writing being hard, about authors being starving artists. I am here to really help people get those powerful ideas and translate that power onto pages. That is my jam. That is what I do. That is what I love to do. And that's what I'm known for.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually don't do that as exclusively, but I do help a lot of my clients get their books written. I have a little book writing framework I use for clients, but it's the same thing. I know they think book writing is like this big hard thing to do, and it's really not.
It's not.
Especially if you have a good solid framework to start from. You can get a book written. I've had clients get books written in 48 hours.
Yeah.
So
I got you beat. I have a client, we wrote her book in 4 hours by the pool, and I was pouring wine as she did it.
Boom. 4 hours to get it written. Yeah. So we've done that with courses before. I haven't done with books, but yeah, it's super cool. And it's such a need, right? Because there's so many people that have great stories to tell and they want to get that out. It can help people get their message out. And they're stopped by these myths that it's hard to write a book, or they don't know how to write, or that you have to be a great writer in order to write a book.
Right.
And none of those things are true. So
not one.
Yeah.
One of the things that people get hung up on that come to me is that they think they have to be siloed off, and they've got to go off and get a cabin, and they've got to, be deep and introspective. And I'm like, that's really not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
That's Hollywood.
That's not how this works. And so when we pull back the layers on who they are and who they can help, it's like the words flow like water. And they're like, I get a lot of, is it supposed to be, am I doing this right? And I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
it's easy.
So I love that, right? You just hit on one of the most important parts when you take the focus off of the book and the person writing the book and put it on to the person that they're going to help with that book.
Absolutely.
Then it just flows, right? Because that's the right focus. You're helping someone else with your message and your story and your perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So that's what you're known for now. What I want to flip to is your origin story, right? Every hero has an origin story, right? Where you started to realize that maybe you were different, that maybe you had superpowers and maybe you could use them to help people. So when did you start to either discover or, build your superpower?
Okay. So it all started
A long, long time ago in a galaxy far,
Okay,
far away.
many moons ago. No, um, I have been writing since I was 8 years old, right? And I know you're thinking, what? You don't look a day over 16. But
I was thinking like 17, but no.
okay, I'll take that. But I've been writing since I was 8. And storytelling and, imaginary friends, like that was me. That was me. And so when I got older, I got into poetry, I got into the deep recesses of fiction, and I was working with a traditional publisher and I was working with an editor, and they were like, "You're awesome and you're going to do great things." But, and that was the but, right?
Yeah.
Here comes the moment. The plot twist hit when they were like, "But you'll never be published unless you learn to write to formula." And I was like, what does that mean? So at the time, it was vampires, werewolves, and love triangles.
Yeah.
That was not my jam. Like, I was like, that's not what I'm here for. So I was writing fiction, but that wasn't what I was writing. Like, I was somewhere else totally as far as writing. And I was, like they said, I could weave the story, but they wanted the easy sale.
Hmm.
And so I left those relationships feeling rejected and dejected. And I actually struggled with writer's block for 2 years after that. And then one day I was like, listen, are you going to let them write your story, or are you going to really write your own story, like in real life? And I had to pull myself up by my bootstraps and say, nope, they don't get the last word. Right. And in that moment, I did a crazy thing. I started writing and publishing. I learned how to write and publish. I wrote 19 books in 6 years. Some were good, some were terrible, but I learned the process. And
Yeah.
that is now why I am even here today, because I can tell people what's real and what's fiction, what they've made up in their mind as to why they haven't written their books. That's me.
Yeah. So were those 19 books, were those fiction or some nonfiction
It
or?
was a combination. When I tell you, all genres, I tried it all because I really wanted to get an understanding. So fiction, I love fiction. Um, because I think because I have an overactive imagination. So I have to write out these people that I talk to in my head. I love fiction. I still write fiction. I have several different pen names. I have nonfiction books. I have poetry books. You name it, I tried it. Except erotica. I did
Awesome.
do erotica, nothing against it. It just wasn't my jam.
My wife calls those lady porn.
Yeah. No lady porn, because I always had this vision of like leaving my laptop open and then my kid wandering over and, being like, oh, so that wasn't for me. That wasn't for
That's
me.
funny.
But everything else, I would try it. Sci-fi, tried it. Romance, tried it. And I have my own little niche that I love.
Awesome. So how did that transition into helping other people write books?
I'm a firm believer in everything that we do and experience is not just for us. And so once I learned it, I would get people sent to me, I would say, and they would always say, I want to write a book with this, or I want to write a book, but I don't know how. And even it's just a part of who I am, right? To just give that back and learn, because I don't want anyone else to feel like I felt for those 2 agonizing years when I couldn't get the words out of my head and onto paper because of something someone else said or something someone else believed to be true. And it just led me to, I guess, for lack of better terminology, trying to save a lot of people. Trying to save a lot of people from that, because
Yeah, because you're
there's
a
so
hero.
much. Thank you. Thank you for noticing. I didn't even put my cape on today. But no, but there's so many people that just get stopped dead in their tracks because they believe no one's going to read this. It's no one wants this, or it's not what's in these stores, or it's not what people are looking for over here. And that's just not true. I had this desire to just tell people that's not true. You're important. Everything you've experienced can help so many people. And if we join forces, we could just do amazing things. And so I did it. I did that. I felt empowered to do that, and I felt required to do that, to help other people like that.
So one of the questions I have for you is how did that translate from taking a skill that you had and having to learn the business of helping other people, services in exchange for money, right? How did that transition go for you?
It was not hard, and I'm gonna tell you why. It all works together, I will tell you. Um, I got a ton of degrees back here, and they're all business. So I have, you know, 3 levels of degrees in business. I have a master's degree in business. I even, in a cheeky way, I named my business Borrow My MBA because people always say, I want to do this thing, but I don't have a degree. And I would say, well, you can borrow mine. If that's the only thing holding you back, just borrow mine, right? And so I'm a little bit of a wiseacre. So I named my business Borrow My MBA. And for a long time, while I was kind of hashing out the publishing piece, I was helping people build businesses because I had that skill set. I was helping them with, you mentioned earlier, working with the Small Business Administration. I was helping them with business plans. I was helping them have an understanding for market research and all of that. And, that was my daytime identity. And then my secret, identity, I'm over here trying to figure out the world of publishing. And I got to a point where I dreaded helping with the business side per se, but I looked forward to trying to help people with books. And I had to really say, okay, I'm going to have to make a shift. And it was easy. It was still consulting. It was still coaching. It was just for a creative process versus a more rational or traditional process. So it's really easy. And it lit me up even the more. Well, I'm a natural teacher. I'm a natural talker. I know you can tell. But it lit me up even more. So the transition, making that my business per se, wasn't so hard. Once I listened and paid attention to all the cues, it was pretty easy.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, I can't remember the name of the quote, or the guy who said the quote, but we need more people who have come alive, right? So go out there and find what makes you come alive and go do that, because that's something that the world needs, right? And when you have found that thing, right, when you've got something that that you have both, like one of the other things I say regularly is mastery begets passion, right? And once you've mastered a skill, you're passionate about it. So like you have found a combination of something that you've mastered and created a passion around that you're then going out and helping other people with.
Absolutely.
And you can tell, and I assume your clients can tell as soon as they get in touch with you, that it's something that makes you come alive. And that really probably helps inspire them to get their work done and get their mission out.
It really does. And I get to be a cheerleader. I get to be a teacher. And I get to say things like I get to be. When I was doing other things, it was like, I have to, I gotta, I need to. But now I'm in a different space and it's like, I get to do these things. I get to support people with those deep secret visions that they have for being on stages and teaching people themselves. I get to create a safe space for them and say, hey, you know what? Tell me your craziest idea. Tell me the wildest place that you want to go teach and speak. And it's like, I want to be, at a conference in the Sahara. And I'm like, the Sahara? Okay, let's do that then. I get to do that and be that anti-voice of reason, I guess. I don't know. I get to support dreamers and not feeling like dreams are silly.
Yeah.
And I get to do that by helping them write books. I mean, what better way? Books are like time capsules. They're timeless. And it's exciting. Like I said, I could talk about this all day.
Yeah, this is kind of, it's off topic, but I'm curious your thoughts on this. One of the things that I love about books, and it's something that I picked up from Orson Scott Card and his little things he puts at the end of his books, where he writes about the process of writing. Mm-hmm. And he said that a book is only ever half written, right? So when you write a book, you've only written half a book. The book isn't completed until someone reads it and it comes alive in their mind.
Absolutely.
And I've always loved that thought. And I'm curious how you feel about that.
So I'm glad you asked me that. I totally agree with you on that. I'm pretty sure that's one of the quotes that I have in my arsenal, and I share it out, to just ignite. I always tell people a book is a conversation, right? And so when you think about a conversation, like there's more than one person involved in that. I totally agree. And that's actually what helps a lot of people. They're like, I can speak about a thing, but I can't write about it. I'm like, if you can talk about it, you can write about it. But having a conversation, this is what makes a successful book to me, is if somebody is in a room and they're reading the book and they start talking to the book like you're in the room, like you have done it. That is the moment of success right there, where it's like, this person gets me so much. I feel like they're talking to me. I feel like I can hear their voice. That is the correlation that I believe that quote, it inspires in me, right?
Yeah.
Because we're just, two people or more having a conversation about something we're passionate about a situation we want to transform, about a belief system that we want to embed in ourselves, whatever that is. The word conversation just solidifies it all.
Yeah. One of the, tactically speaking, one of the things that I help my clients with that is just understanding that if it's a conversation, you can just speak your book. And I'll have clients be like, hey, just write out your outline and put on your voice recorder and talk about it. Yeah. And then we'll transcribe it and get an editor to fix it up and make it pretty. And it ends up being in their voice and feeling like a conversation. And they realize like, oh, like I don't have to be a great writer to get my message out.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you say that, because if I could hug you, I would. Because that's largely, I have something that I take people through that I've coined as conversational outlining. A lot of times people get stuck at the outline because they're like, Roman numeral, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, let's do something a little different. And so we do this conversational outlining and they come to life, because I make them not only put on the author hat, but also the reader hat. And like, what would the other side of that conversation look like? What questions would they have? And so we build an outline that way. And we record, we transcribe, and then I get to do something that a lot of people don't know I do. There's 2 levels of outlining, editing in my process. I do the first level and I do a voice edit, because I get to talk to my clients. And if I read it and it doesn't sound like them, we go back to the drawing board because you're filtering, something's off, you're afraid, maybe they're quoting a lot of, technical stuff, and that's not the heart of who they are. And so we do that before we even do a technical edit where we, send it off to the polishers and all of that stuff. So
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And very proprietary, because I bet a lot of people don't do that. I've never done that with my clients, but that's it's really cool. I feel like we're gonna have to hop on and talk after the interview, because I want to see your conversational outline thing, how you do it.
Okay.
I'll share with you my my outline we use.
I love it.
It's super cool. We use it for like what would you call it? The educational type works, right?
Yes.
If you want to teach someone how to do something, that's mostly the type of clients that I have. So I have an outline that helps people walk through how to teach someone something.
I love
works
it.
really well. Cool. So I want to move on a little bit on so like we spent a long time talking about your origin story, but it's super cool. So the next part is your superpowers, right? Every superhero has one, right? And it's what you do or that you or use to help your clients slay their villains, right? If you could narrow down to one thing that you would call, this is my superpower that I use to help my clients, what would that be?
My superpower that I use to help my clients is I have a super strong insight. And so to clarify that, I had a client that came to me and she's like, my book is going to be called, it was like, How to Have Faith After You've Fallen. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. And she's like, what? Yes, it is. And her book ended up being called, I'm Not a Hypocrite, I'm Human.
That's a good title.
I'm not that deep, but that's what came to me. Like, but that insight into who it is that you're talking to, knowing that the things that would trigger them, knowing the things that would make them put the book down and not get to the end and get the results that are needed. It's that insight that helps them pull back those layers that have been holding the crap that they don't need. Like, I've got to have a great book cover. I'm like, first you got to have a book, so that insight into the process. Where do I find an editor? Do you have a book? No.
You don't need an editor yet.
Don't even worry about that. So that insight just brings to the forefront the things that they need to focus on, so that they can be the talent, and then we can take care of the rest later.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you really are helping your clients know what the next thing is, so they don't get distracted by things that they don't need to yet.
Absolutely.
That's such a common problem in a lot of spaces too, right? Like I'm involved in a couple of groups that teach like how to build an agency, right? How to build a business agency.
Right.
And one of the things that comes up all the time is like, well, I need to get business cards and I need to get my website done. And they're like, have you talked to a client yet? Right. Like you don't, yeah, like you have a client, like business cards are a distraction, right? Like, and they're like, well, I don't have my logo or my website or my email system set up. I'm like, all those things come after you have revenue.
Right. You need to focus on revenue generating activities.
Yeah. Right. Like, just go out and talk to people, get a client first, and then then you can, have the money to pay for someone to build a logo and get a business card done and all those things.
So same thing. We don't want to put the cart before the horse, as they would say.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just a common problem. So it's really cool that like that's a thing that you step in and help your clients get the next step done. The most important step, right, is the next one. Yes. And you get then we can take the next step and the next step and move on. And it's like I had a client the other day that just sent me a book cover. He's like, I made a book cover. And I was like, for what book? He's like, well, I got to write the book eventually, but this is the cover. I was like, you're a little just tad ahead of yourself.
Right. It's like, how much time did you take doing that? And then especially for business owners, if they know how much their time is worth. So if it took you an hour, it really cost you this amount of money because you don't need that yet.
Yeah, gotta get the book done. So, anyways, we're going to sit down and outline the book and get that done. But, it was his way of thinking, like, I want to write a book. So he started with the book cover, which, works for him. But, it's putting the cart before the horse. Right. So the flip side of every superpower is your fatal flaw, right? So fatal flaw is, is the thing, like I tell people I tend to be a bit of a perfectionist, to my detriment, where I'm sad to admit this, I have on a number of occasions spent an obscene amount of time trying to get like one pixel to move in one direction on a website. And then realizing after I've wasted 4 hours being like, that has like literally nothing to do with anything. I agree with you. I've had to work a lot on that. So the question is, A, what is the fatal flaw? But B, more importantly, what kind of systems and things have you set up in your business to help you combat that? So other people who might struggle from the same thing can learn from you.
So that too, that perfectionism is my kryptonite. Okay. And for a long time, it was like perfectionism and then being a little bit of a control freak. Just a little bit, right? And so the way that I combat that is I have a team. I have what I call my SWAT team to support my clients. That's support, writing, and tactical team or technical team. So, there's somebody to handle everything, right? But I also have my own, like I've got 3 assistants, and at any given time, they're asking me, what do you need me to do? And so that keeps me in check. So I'm not always juggling or trying to juggle, because I can't juggle, trying to juggle things. But I wish that I had invested in having a team earlier.
Yeah.
Because it caused me a lot of stress. I had to get to a point of stress, before I was like, maybe I should get some help. And so, like you said, I'm spending hours like helping a client with a website, not because I can't do it, but I'm like, if I could just center this, it's still off just a little bit. The logo's not quite where I need it to be. And like thinking about, I now have a tech VA. I can just pass that off to her and say, hey, listen, don't let me get in my own way. Can you do something with this? And that is my saving grace.
So you want to know something that's funny? That is exactly the same way that I solved that problem in my life, right? Is I was like, I realized I needed to get myself out of the processes, because my VAs are interested in getting the result,
Yes.
right? My team members are interested in getting the result for myself and for my clients because that's what I've asked them to do is get the result.
Right.
And they're not looking at they don't have the same trouble that I have. So I'm able to pull that bottleneck out, right?
Yeah.
And I have been over the last many months in my business been spending an obscene amount of time like figuring out ways to make sure that I'm not doing the actual
Me
work
too.
on things.
Right.
Right. So like
Yeah.
just as an example, my one of the things that I picked up, this is an iPad, right? I've got my show notes on here. That's what I keep looking at. And I have so I've got my laptop, and one of the things I've noticed is the iPad is a simpler device, right? You can do a lot of things on it. You can do a lot of things really well. I can actually do most of the things that I would do on my computer on my iPad,
Yeah.
but a lot of the technical work that I have to do for my clients is more difficult on the iPad. But what's not
Okay.
more difficult on the iPad is writing or recording the process document and assigning it to my team.
I love it. I'm gonna
So
say that. Like, I
yeah,
need that.
yeah. So what I will do is like if I know I need to just get a bunch of stuff out, is I will close my laptop and I'll go somewhere else, right? So I'm not at my desk. I'll like sit
Right.
outside at the patio or sit out with watch my kids play or whatever, and I'll record process documents. Um, and because like that's easy to do on the iPad, and so
Right.
I'm using an environmental, what do you call it, like an environmental
Limitation.
psychology,
Yeah. It's a
yeah,
yeah.
to force myself to do the things I know I need to do, right?
Oh
Because
gosh,
then
I love it.
I'm getting out of my own way. So anyways, and having a team has really it led to that, and it's been helping me get over a lot of the perfectionism. And then what I found out is because of the way I teach my VAs to do things, teach my team members to do things, I always give them my thinking, right? Here's why we're doing it this way, and here's why I want it done this way. They're starting to get smarter about my processes and coming back and asking intelligent questions and improving my processes even better than I was doing them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
I love that.
it's so cool when you have a team that's driving towards helping your clients with their mission and whatnot. So
And it's like you said,
anyways,
it's a matter of getting out of your own way, because
yeah.
I was very good at that, getting in the way and getting bogged down in something. I'm like, it's a visionary problem, is what it is. Visionary problems, that's what it is. And so now delegation, it's been my saving grace.
Oh man, it's so glorious. I'll have to remind me, but when we're finished the interview, I'll show you my Trello board that we use to automate some of the task
I
stuff. I think you'll
love
really like it.
Trello. Look, I love Trello. Look, we are kindred spirits. Like,
I'll show you my Trello stuff when we hop off. It's super cool.
okay,
So next question is your common enemy, right? So if you
okay,
could go into your clients' minds when they hire you and you could just immediately pull out one of those negative mindsets or bad mindsets that's holding them back and
okay.
just destroy that common enemy, so you could help them achieve their goals, what would that common enemy be?
The common enemy would be the term just right. Just right. Um, People who come to me, they usually say, I know I should be able to just write, which is true, but in the context that they have absorbed it, it doesn't help them because, um, regardless of what your outlining process is, pre-writing is necessary. Um, in fiction, I'm what they call a pantster. Sometimes, I can sit down and just write by the seat of my pants. But for the most part, the outline, it just cuts down on a lot of the mental chatter that happens, that keeps people from writing it the way that they got it, writing it the way that it downloaded to them. And so I would take away that term, that phrase, that it means well advice, just sit down and write. I would take that away and I would just destroy it, never to be seen again.
So what would you replace it with?
I would replace it with, um, let's have a conversation. That's exactly what I would replace it with, because that's how I help people get out of their heads and say, look, okay, so tell me about it. Talk to me about it. And then they go and they flow. And it's like, you see how
And
those words?
you just surreptitiously hit record on your phone while they're talking. You're like,
Yeah,
look, your book's done.
that. And I ask questions because we're computers, And
Mhm.
if you have something to respond to, depending on, how much you know about human design and all of that, the majority of the population are responders. They need something to respond to. That's where writer's block comes from, because you're trying to respond to nothing. You haven't created something for you to respond to, like an outline,
Yeah.
So that's my woo woo moment.
What's what's interesting is like that's how I built my my writer framework that we use. We use it to write webinars, to write ad copy, to write books, write all sorts of things, and it starts with a set of questions. And we'll take the things that they want to talk about, and the first exercise we go through is like, here's all your topics. Let's turn those into questions you can answer, right?
Yeah.
So, what is writing a book? Why is writing a book important? How do you write a book? Now that you've written a book, what's one of the things that you can do, right? And now they're responding to questions that they know the answers deeply, right?
Right.
And it turns into, like you said, they're having a conversation with their outline instead,
Absolutely.
which is so much easier.
You
So
so get me. Look, you so get me.
I feel like we're gonna have to charge for this webinar, where or for this podcast. People are learning too much.
We're giving it all away. Like, go out
Giving
there
it
and
all away. The secret, ask
secret.
questions.
Right.
What is it? Tony Robbins says, ask better questions, you'll get better answers.
You'll get better
So,
answers.
absolutely. Okay, so other side of common enemy is your driving force, right? So just like Spider-Man fights to save New York, or Batman fights to save Gotham, or Google fights to index all the world's information, what does Tesa Colvin fight for?
I fight for getting your message to the masses. One of the pillars behind what I do is that someone is dialing 911. In my world, that means they're on Amazon, they're on Google, they're looking for an answer to something, and it's you. It's your message, it's your methodology, it's your experience. And it's just like they're calling 911 and no one's answering because your book isn't there. That is my driving force, getting people to understand how we all connect, and how everything that I went through has allowed me to help X amount of authors, and in my personal life, giving advice and teaching. It's all connected. Like, none of it is wasted. And when you understand how important you are to the next person, you understand how important your message and your methodology and your teaching and your story is to that next person.
Yeah. I tell people all the time that we're a storyborn people.
Yes.
Right. And being a storyborn people means that we connect with each other because of our stories. And you can measure the depth of a relationship by the depth of the stories you know about another person.
Yes.
So my measurement for that is, an acquaintance is someone who, someone you don't know is someone who you don't know their name, you don't know their story. An acquaintance might be someone whose name you know, but whose story you don't. A friend is someone who's, you know their name, you know a little of their story. Maybe you know a lot of their story. A best friend might be someone that you know all of their stories, so much so that they can't tell you any new stories. The only way to create new stories is to go out and create new stories together, right? And you can measure a relationship by the amount of story that you share with someone. And the way that translates into business, and to writing stories, and to writing and teaching and educating, and a lot of the stuff that we help our clients do, is that you have a client or a customer who is living, has some sort of a problem, right? And I always, my illustration is they want to get from where they have a problem, across, the crocodile infested river. And on the other side of the crocodile infested river is the promised land.
Yes.
And, that river has got crocodiles on it, and it's got whirlpools, and it's got, places they can get sucked in and whatnot. And most of my clients, they think about, like, I want to create a product that helps someone get over that thing. Maybe it's a book, maybe it's a thing, whatever the thing is. And they're thinking, like, I want to create a boat, and they're hoping to sell their clients a boat, which is great. You do want to sell your clients a boat, but the reason someone is going to buy passage on your boat is because that boat comes with a captain. Right. That's your perspective.
That knows how to navigate.
Yeah. You have been across that river before. You have, your boat might have crocodiles shooting, disintegrating lasers, but you know how to activate them and how to turn them on, right? That kind of stuff. Like, your story is important to helping them achieve their goals.
Absolutely. So, I love that. First of all, my imagination is going wild. I'm like, I can see the boat. I can see all of that. And so that's it. that's the thing. A lot of times people are afraid to even get into their story. Um, my methodology, people will tell you, I am not a tell-all person. Tell-alls are salacious, they're not powerful, but I will help you write a teach-all day long. And so with that, you get to see some of your story, but it's still not all about you. You're not in a journal saying on May 3rd, this happened. On May 6th, this happened. It's more along the lines of, I'm telling you this works. Let me tell you how it manifested for me. Let me tell you how it looked in my life. And this is why I know this is going to help you. And that totally changes the dynamic of a book. People walk away not entertained, but they have some level of action that they're going to take. They have a win that they're going to go out and get because you showed them how.
Yeah. So one of the things that I tell my clients of this is like, so if you have something you're going to talk about, I use a four-part framework, right? So you're going to talk about, whatever it is, it's a what, why, how, now, right? So you're going to talk about what it is, why it's important, how you implement it, and then now is your perspective, right? And if you look at the first three, most people will teach how. Some people will teach why. Very few people will teach the what. And that's just data, right? How-to information is data. And there's nothing wrong with data, but data lacks emotion. And people don't change until they are emotionally bought in. So I tell people that the data is like the nails in a construction project, and your stories and your perspective are like the hammer that drive the data home, right? Holds it together. So
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it's super cool. That's I think, you're right. We're kindred spirits. We talk about the same kind of stuff to our clients all the time.
Absolutely.
So every hero has a hero's tool belt, right? Okay. It's Thor has his magic hammer. Your neighborhood police officer has his bulletproof vest, right? Maybe you're like me, you really like Evernote to keep notes in, or Trello. Like I am hardcore in love with Trello. Do you have any particular tools that you use on a regular basis that help you do what you do for your clients?
You know what? I'm a simple girl, and I keep it really simple. Excel. Excel is my jam because, like you said about data, it allows me to help them break down certain things, certain processes. A lot of times people can help people get results, but they don't even realize, because it's so almost robotic for them how to do a thing, that how many steps. So I'll get clients and they're like, yeah, you just do this, and this. I said, no, let's break down this first piece. And it's like, see, it's 27 steps in this first step, and they're like, whoa. And I'm like, so we need to narrow this down. And we need to figure out, no matter what level your reader is, they all got to start here, So Excel helps me do that. I know it's a nerd thing.
Oh, no, it's brilliant.
It helps me to tab that out.
Yeah, one of the I have a name for that process. I call that what. I'm going to forget my own name for it now. But anyways, I have it written down somewhere on my thing that I share with my clients. But the idea essentially is that when it's expert blindness is what I call it, and overcoming expert blindness. So when someone is really, really good at something, they have the amount of time that it takes them to go from stimulus to response is nearly instantaneous, right? Because they've trained themselves to be really, really good at things, and they'll make decisions and do things based on a set of inputs, and they don't even realize the decisions that they've made, right? Because it's second nature for them, right? Like if you've ever watched a martial artist, they're making so many decisions so quickly that like they couldn't even tell you what they all are.
It's a superpower, right?
Yeah, it's a superpower. But the reality is like the way everyone works is you have stimulus and response, and between stimulus and response is choice.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're making choices. And the difference between someone who's a master and someone who's a beginner is the amount of time that is between stimulus and response. Right. So for people who are masters, it's nearly instantaneous, right? Stimulus and response happens immediately. So our job as what I call instructional designers is to help a master spread that time apart and see what's happening in there. Right. What are the stimuluses that you're getting, and what are the responses that you're doing, and why are those happening? Because that's how you're going to help teach someone else your process.
Right. So we essentially just zoom in on each of those steps, so that they can break it down for, those who are struggling with the thing. An example that kind of helps people that I work with, this is going to make you laugh, is I say, think about when you go to the doctor. You'll say, okay, doc, I got a pain in my neck, I got a pain in my back, and they come back and they give you this convoluted, name for whatever the thing is, and you're like, okay, how do I fix that? And I was so I tell people when we're writing their book, think about your visits to the doctor. Then they begin to, break down what you need to do. You need to change your eating habits. How many times have we heard that? You need to do this. You need to do that. And your step by step to diagnosis to get better. That analogy usually helps people to see it like, oh, okay, I need to, like you said, I need to bring it down to another level so that I can walk people through this process.
Yeah, you need to help them take each one of the steps. So yeah, that's super cool. And I don't use Excel for that. I use a mind mapping tool because that's the way I work. I like to be able to flip stuff around and move it and play with things. But yeah, if Excel works for you, that's super cool.
Look, it's kind of scary.
I use Excel to do math, right? Because I can't do math, but I can write equations like nobody's business. So yeah, so.
I love Excel. I would marry it. My husband probably wouldn't like that, but I love it because there's so many different things I can do with it. You can do tables, you can do if-thens, all of that. Don't even get me started.
Yeah, man. You get into things like concatenation and like I have an Excel spreadsheet I used for tracking guides where we will I'll build a legend for all of the stuff we're using for tracking on ads. Mm-hmm. So we have the sources and the mediums and the content and the ad types and the audiences. I have a legend, and then we have another sheet that has the URL that we're promoting, right, and a bunch of drop downs that pulls all the options off of the legend. And so someone can be like, I want to promote this link, and we're going to promote it on this platform with this ad creative, this thing. And so they select all the things, and it creates a tracking link for them.
I love that.
So they can track all of it. And like that's the kind of geeky stuff I do with Excel.
You throw some macros in there, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Are you tired of trying to write webinars that don't consistently convert? How would you like to have a webinar that effortlessly created sales in your online business? You can. Introducing the Webinar Alchemy Workshop. Webinar Alchemy Workshop is an online masterclass that will help you write incredibly persuasive webinars for your online courses quickly and easily. Using what you learn in this class, you can build a webinar that educates your entire audience while still creating sales. For a limited time, you can purchase this masterclass for only $7, and you'll get the exact framework I've personally used to help my clients sell more than $1 million worth of online coaching and training just over the last year. Simply text the word alchemy, ALCHEMY, to 444999, and I'll send you all the details.
The music is by Purple Planet Music. Visit www.purple-planet.com.
Yeah, it's like if we can automatically build things in Excel, I am a happy camper.
Right.
So. Cool. So let's move on to your own personal heroes, right? So okay. Frodo had Gandalf, Luke had Obi-Wan Kenobi, Robert Kiyosaki had his rich dad. Who are some of your personal heroes? Were they real-life mentors? Were they speakers and authors? Or were they peers who maybe were just a few years ahead of you? And how important were they to your journey and where you are now?
So I have had some amazing mentors, some amazing mentors. Some were personal, some were more idols. Like Langston Hughes. I love Langston Hughes. I think he was a phenomenal writer. Maya Angelou, phenomenal. But my very first mentor when it came to writing was Miss Paula Bailey. She was my 4th and 5th grade teacher. And one situation changed things for me. At a very young age, I lost my mother, and then I moved from Alabama to Michigan, and that was like 2 totally different worlds, and I was kind of a sad kid, but I was bored, and so I'm in 4th grade, and I'm like done. Everybody's trying to figure out what a subject and a predicate is. I got it, and she gave me a notebook and a pen, and she told me, here, write your story. Write a story. That changed things for me. That one moment. And I started writing worlds, and I started writing poetry, and I started, writing the things that I imagined, and that changed things for me. later in life, I had a business mentor. And one of the things that she said to me was, somebody's got to be famous. Why not you? And I was like, well, I don't know, so it wasn't so much about fame, but as much as it was, somebody's got to step up and somebody's got to be in the front. So why not you?
Yeah.
And those two moments, right, were all about trusting my imagination. And they totally changed the trajectory of my life in those points.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is I have a similar story when it comes to writing. It wasn't fourth and fifth grade. I was seventh grade, and his name was Mr. Van Voorhis, and he was my history teacher in seventh grade. And I remember the first essay that they assigned to us was on. We were studying California history, because that's what you studied in seventh grade, and we were studying the Indians. Mm-hmm. That lived in the area that we lived when before the Spanish missions came in and took over.
Right.
And I don't remember what the paper was about, but I remember turning the paper in, and I remember the day that he had finished grading them all, and he turned them all back to the students. And he went and he handed them out one by one and handed them all to the students. And he came to me last and he said, "I'm not going to give you your paper. I want you to see me after class."
You were like, oh no.
And I was like, oh no, one of those moments where you start sweating and your stomach drops out and you're like, oh, I really royally effed it up if he wants to see me after class.
This is not going to go well.
Yeah, this is not going to go well. And so I stayed after class, and he was like, before I show you your paper, I want you to know, he's like, you're probably one of the most talented writers I've ever had come through my class.
Wow.
And he's like, so I did not grade you like a seventh grader. I graded you like a high school student, like a high school senior. Wow. And he's like, so this paper, I tore your paper apart. And he's like, I didn't want to make you cry in class by handing it to you. Right? Because you're seventh grade, you're emotionally unstable.
Yeah. And to see all the red on your paper, it's going to be a little bit different.
It's going to be a little bit different. And he's like, essentially, you got 100% on this paper. He's like, but I ripped it apart. He's like, because you can do something with this. And he's like, the other thing I want you to do is I want you to come by once a week after class, and I want to do some writing workshops with you and help you improve your writing. And so I went, I got permission from my parents to do that. And he spent the year teaching me how to be a better writer. And really changed my trajectory. Yeah. And that's something that has happened a number of times through my career. I had a number of teachers that really you got a gift for this. You should really push hard on it. And mine, I've never done fiction. Mine's always been nonfiction, writing, and historical stuff, that kind of stuff. But anyways, it's amazing that you can have, when you have someone who really makes a change for you. And it's like, I get paid professionally now to help people write, or to write myself and things like that, right? So it puts you on a path.
It does.
So
I love that. That is so, I'm not going to cry, but that's awesome, because that's what I aspire to do, is to turn on a light bulb for someone, that they can own their greatness, regardless of how they started out, regardless of, if there's been bumps in the road, that they can own it like that, and then turn around and help other people. And it's a little bit selfish. I want to help people so they can help more people. It's a little
the ripple effect.
Yeah, but I mean, there's just such a power in knowing that you touch lives that touch lives that then touch lives, and so on. So
yeah. That's why we bring up this question, right? Your own personal heroes, because we realize that the reason why you are a hero today is because you have heroes in your life that helped shape who you are.
Yeah.
Right. And when you step up and you do that for someone else, right, you're doing the same thing. You're paying it forward, right? You're helping to be a hero in someone else's life and turning them into the hero they know they can be. So
I love it.
Yeah. Okay, so last question I have on the show is your guiding principles, right? So let's bring it home for our listeners. What are one or two things, actions or principles that you do on a daily basis that help you, contribute to the success and influence that you enjoy today? And if we could be more specific, ones that you wish you had started when you started your business.
I wish that one. Okay. One of my guiding principles is the power of team. You know, it helps me remember that it's not all about me. Even on my worst day, it's not all about me. Um, and with that, it doesn't just take me. It makes me value my team. And that's something I wish I had done from the very beginning. I wish that I had gotten the right people around me to help push a vision forward. Even if it was mentors, even if it was just putting myself in those circles that would stretch me. I wish I had done that. I played it safe for a long time because I did make it all about me. I didn't want to ruffle feathers. I didn't want to have to deal with opposition to my theology and the way that I think. I wanted to be safe. And one thing about being a hero and saving people is you can't do that. You know, it's not about you. You got to jump off the building and save them as they plummet to the ground. You know, you can't have this idea that, you know, what if I miss, or what if you can't make it about you, because that moment is not about you. It's about their life. And I wish that I had really got that early on. I wouldn't have fought against, you know, making the transition from business to books for so long. I wouldn't have had writer's block for so long in that transition period. And I know it was all a part of the process and a part of my story. But I truly went into myself and made it about me when there was so much more, so many more people that it was truly supposed to be about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I love that you said in that was that you were afraid to have your ideas challenged. Mm-hmm. Right. And what's interesting is an idea that's unchallenged is not a good idea. Right. True. And it's the kind of ideas, when the ideas can stand up to the challenge, then they're great ideas. Yeah. Right. And that's, you know, you sort of discovered that, and now you have a suite of services. You help people and you do those things. But part of it was like you had to step out and experience a little danger, right? Have your thoughts and your processes challenged a little bit to realize that they're good. Right. And then that helps build confidence. Absolutely. And you realize that, like, hey, you don't have to be afraid that someone's going to challenge you, because you know that your ideas stand up to the challenge.
Absolutely.
So
and I get to say that to my clients when they try to pad their writing with a lot of data. I can feel that. And so it just strengthened my superpower.
That's super cool. Awesome. Well, last thing I do on every one of the shows is something I call the Hero Challenge. It's pretty simple. Okay. And the Hero Challenge is just this. Do you have someone in your business network that you think has a cool story? Who are they, and why do you think they should come on the show and share their story?
Oh, how do I narrow that down? I do have someone that I think would be just phenomenal. Her name is Beverly. She's my biz bestie. She is someone who challenges the belief system around money and your relationship with God or Christianity or universe or whoever it is for you. A lot of times I've seen her pull back layers and tell people, just because you have this affinity for helping people doesn't mean that you should reject money. It doesn't mean that you can't attract money. It doesn't make you a bad person to admit that bills take money. And so she's very powerful in that, and she does it in a way that isn't, you know, markety, like you hear a lot about people talking about 6-figure this or 7-figure that. She helps people really build businesses that they are proud of, they're integrous, and be who they are in whatever their belief system is. And I think that's a superpower. She says it's not either or. You can have it all, and it's okay if you want it all. So
yeah, awesome. So we'll reach out after the show and see if we can get contact details for that. Okay. Last thing is, how can someone get a hold of you if they want to get help getting their book written? And the second question is, where should that person be in their process before they reach out to you? Like, you know, what would an ideal client be?
Well, it's really easy to find me. Book Strategies with Tesa. I keep it simple. It's spelled how it sounds. Book Strategies with Tesa.com, and that will get you right to me. And even on social media platforms, Book Strategies with Tesa or Tesa Colvin. And this is where they should be. They should be certain that they're ready to write a book that helps people. They're not trying to rehash their story per se, but they're wanting to use their story to empower people. They may have written a couple 100,000 words, but they know that it needs some honing. They know that something's missing. They know that they have been holding back the secret sauce that is them. And that is my jam, helping them to make sure, because you can tell people exactly what to do. You're still the secret sauce. There's no such thing as giving away too much. It'll never happen. You're still the genius that they need. You're still the genius that they want to connect with. And so that is where they have to be. And even if they have written the entire manuscript, there is still room for improvement, because I'm a voice editor. I can go through and make sure that you haven't filtered with fear. That's a big thing. People will filter with fear in their writing. So that's it.
Awesome. And obviously, if you're listening to this, you can tell Tesa knows what she's talking about. So if you are at any place to getting your book written and you want to get it out there, make sure you reach out to Tesa. It's bookstrategieswithtesa.com. And Tesa, thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on here. Super cool.
So happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.